Marvel's Spider-Man is one of the most visceral and true creations of a superhero ever done in a video game before. It really captures the essence of what it feels like to play as Spider-Man. The web slinging in particular just feels fantastic, but it's not without its faults. Let's start with the story. Now, you really have to praise Insomniac for the story here because it's one of the most unique Spider-Man stories I've seen in a media outside of comic books. It actually feels very different. This Spider-Man is in his early 20s, he's already had a relationship with Mary Jane and broken up, and now he spends most of his time either as a Spider-Man or working as a scientist with Otto. The beginning of the game starts off with you taking out Fisk even, which leads into the main plot line of the game. He's already seen most of the villains and took them on, and that's a great, interesting take on it. It even subverts many of the tropes that are found in Spider-Man movies and games and twists around the characters so that they feel fresh and unique. It's about a 10 to 15 hour campaign if you just focused on the main story. There's a bunch of different side stuff, so you'll get a little distracted along the way, but it's a pretty meaty game. You could spend the upwards of 20 to 40 hours just taking on all the different side things in the main story alone. Where the story really begins to fumble is in the writing department. Some of it is just pure cringe. Most of it is pretty good, but there's some parts in particular, like with Mary Jane and Peter Parker and other parts that just don't stack up as well as other parts of the game. As a whole, though, the story is fantastic and very well done. From start to finish, it's very lengthy and meaty, and there's also some interesting characters and choices you'll run into, and it has a crazy amount of villains. You'll run into like 6 different comic book villains from Spider-Man in it, so there's a lot to do here. Moving on to the gameplay, it's pretty well done. The combat in particular is really fantastic. It's very much like a Batman Arkham Asylum type of game. You got all sorts of different moves and abilities. You can beat people up. You can play different styles as well, like if you want to play more stealthy or if you want to just go in there, beat the crap out of people, which is cool. You've got a ton of different options with gadgets and things that you can shoot around, stuff to stun people and shoot them and stick them to walls. And it even has interesting, unique mechanics, like if you beat someone up and then web them as they're against the wall, you can then stick them on the wall, basically incapacitating them and taking them out of the fight. These are great, and it really feels good. The only real problem I have with the combat is that it doesn't really take enough advantage of Spider-Man's mobility. That's the entire point of his character in many ways, to me at least. It feels like that is a huge missed opportunity. There's too much fist fighting and beating people up in close combat that just doesn't feel like Spider-Man. Spider-Man should be swinging around the place and using different web abilities, which you just don't really get to do here. There's also a few different areas where you play as different characters like a Miles and a Mary Jane, and these just completely fall apart. They don't add anything to the game. They're these stealth sections, and they're just awful. They're so poorly designed. They're super easy. They're boring. They just don't add anything to the game. And then there's this awful hacking minigame that's stuck in at different points where you have to reroute voltages to get equipment to work or try and match up different lines. It's just boring and super simple and easy. It doesn't add anything to the overall gameplay. It's just really cheesy designed puzzle. And then there's the side content, which is a bit of a mixed bag. There's some stuff where you'll find people getting mugged or hostage situations and things that you have to deal with. These are cool and interesting situations that add to the gameplay and really make you feel like you're swinging around and defeating bad guys and contributing to the city. But then there's this other random stuff that's stuck into the game. Like there's this Black Cat section where you go through and you find little Black Cat dolls that have been placed around the place and take pictures of them to unlock a special suit, and other boring missions like that, like more hacking minigame. And then the worst offender is these really boring missions where it's like, we have to find out which cars are causing pollution. Let's swing through the air as Spider-Man, going and finding pollution clouds, and then identify which cars are causing the problem by taking pictures and then reporting them to the EPA. Just like, why are these even in the game? They don't add anything of value and feel pointless. However, fortunately, most of that stuff is just side content, so you don't have to deal with it very much. And the actual main gameplay, the main meat of it, the regular Spider-Man gameplay, as you're swinging around and the combat is all really fun. The graphics and soundtrack are also phenomenal. The city looks really great. Overall, I think Spider-Man is a really great game, and it's definitely one of the better superhero games ever created. Marvel's Spider-Man gets an 8 out of 10. It's a really good game that could be a 9 out of 10 with some minor tweaks. I really hope they make a sequel to this game because I really enjoyed it and thought it was one of the better superhero games ever created, and it's really something we should look up to and hopefully expect that other companies do more of. If companies would take games like this and Arkham Asylum and do this with other superheroes, that would be freaking awesome.